All right, I'm just picking up where I left off my last video. I was talking about the the tribe of Gad. There was a group in the Gadites, as they were also called, the tribe of Gad, one of the 12 heads of the 12 tribes of Israel, one of the 12 sons of um, Jacob. I said Isaac yesterday, which is still the same line, but Jacob is actually the patriarch that had the 12 sons. That's where you get the story of Joseph and him going to Egypt and all that. But anyway, Gad was, I mean, there was a lot of sons. So Gad was one of the 12 sons. All I know is when he was blessed, that he was blessed in the area of war, conquering, raiding, that type of thing. So uh, all the tribes of Israel really were badass, like warriors and fighters. That's why, like, even today, in Israel, as a citizen, you graduate high school, you go to the military. You don't have a choice. Like, from what I understand, anyway. Like, everybody goes to the military for 2 years at least. If you want to stay longer, you can. And they have one of the most badass militaries in the world, the most badass intelligence agency in the world. Like, all the nations around them that want to destroy them, trust me, like, they can handle it. They can handle, like, the pressure. They can handle the attacks. Like, God has always had them supernaturally covered too. However, it's not all God. Like, they all have to, train, and all these people in the Bible that I talk about, like, they weren't just supernaturally badass. Like, there are a lot of guys who are just regular people, but like, there were stories of guys, and there's a lot of them. Like, names I can't even remember of guys that, like, it was 1 versus 300. I mean, I think there was like 1,000 or something. I mean, these are just one guy up against this many other guys, and it doesn't go into detail and say it was all at once, or if it was over like several days, or if they were like being assassins and getting that many people, or if they were literally just fighting out in like the battlefield, and it was just one person taking on that many. I don't know. But I mean, that's what it says. A lot of guys. There's a guy in Judges. I can't remember his name, but he had an ox goad, and I don't even know what that is, but it's something to do with farming. And he killed 600 Philistines with it. The Philistines were always getting whooped by Israelites, like, in large amounts. Just, they hated the Israelites so much because they were always just one Israelite would come along and just whomp them. I mean, we're talking killing hundreds of them, and just fucking them. Sorry, messing them up. Trying not to talk about the Bible and cuss at the same time. But anyway, so the last thing I was saying is one of these guys that were of the tribe of Gad, who also, I believe, they had some type of hybridization going on. They had some type of hybrid program going on, and making like super soldiers. There were 30 of them. David made them all officers in his army. David had a huge army. It was probably the baddest in the world. And they did. They had to be giant killers. But these guys, it said they had the faces of lions. They could. They were swift as gazelles on the mountains. So in very tough terrain to get over, they were still twice as fast. This is what it's saying. They were above and beyond normal human soldiers. Like, they were ambidextrous. They were able to. They were incredible marksmen, incredible with swords. They were ambidextrous. They could use both hands, and they literally, they looked like hybrid human, like the lion-like men of Moab. And here's the thing about that too: Moab was very close to the. I think it was right next door to the plot of land that the tribe of Gad lived on. So they were next door neighbors. So whatever was going on in that area, you know what I'm saying? And God did. He got mad at the tribes of Israel for doing abominable things like the Philistines and the surrounding pagan tribes around Israel. And that was one of the abominations. That's why God had sent the flood, because of that mixing species, mixing kinds, hybrid animal human creatures is not okay with God. And that's why, like, they did have extreme abilities, and like, that's another thing too, is you see that David, like, made them officers in his army. They weren't already in his army. because David, as a follower of God, he wasn't normally like interacting with these types. Yeah, they were Israelites, but again, I think they might have been like their own thing, like kind of lived in maybe a secluded, like away from the main population, um, because of their appearance and how they were different. People knew that, like, blood. I mean, tainted blood. This is where you get like the sayings like the bastard spirits, unclean spirits, things of that nature, because they were literally unclean in physical form. Their blood was mixed, hybrid, tainted blood, and in physical form, while they were walking around in the 3D physical realm. So when they die, they still roam the earth in spirit form, but they are unclean spirits for that reason. They were also the Nephilim were called, the giant clans and stuff were called the lawless ones. I mean, they were so vile, and they, did so much debauchery that God hated. Like, that's what, Enoch calls them, the lawless ones. And they got so out of control that the sons of God literally had to. I mean, I think that was one of the reasons that they traded, like, with humans, and they literally, I think some of them anyway, helped humans arm themselves and go against and help protect against, like, the giant clans, because they were killing everything and everybody, and like you had to fight them, you had to fend them off. I mean, they just basically almost took out the entire population. That was this is why the flood came, why God sent the flood, because you know he said, "My spirit shall not always strive with man." His years, that was him saying, "Look, there's only 120 years left before there's not going to be any more full-blooded humans that can be indwelt by my Holy Spirit, that can have the covenant with God." Um, so they never stopped trying even after the flood. And as time went on, you see more and more angels rebelled, more and more. You had divine council. I think Gary Wayne calls them parent gods. You had, like, I think there was God breeding. I think angels were not permitted to breed, but they did. Um, Azazel is, I think, a full-blooded offspring of two angels. I can't prove that yet, but um, it's interesting to read in Enoch about Simjaza, and so Simjaza is called the leader of all the fallen angels, but it also says Azazel is kind of like a leader. So this is what I think. I think Simjaza, Azazel is Simjaza's son, and that's why he's called a leader too. That would make sense, because the royal lineages, the son is always the heir to the throne, and Azazel is ascribed. All sin is ascribed to Azazel. I think we have your first being of literally zero human, no human DNA whatsoever, and it is an offspring of two non-human creations that were not supposed to breed. And I think Azazel was a different type of evil. I think he had no capability of being good in any way, and that he was the most terrible evil thing ever. This is why he is thrown underneath. Like, I think he was, once he started, you know, crossing the line, his judgment came swiftly. It's not real clear, and I think the fallen angels and the Nephilim really were able to do their thing for about 600 years before the flood. And I'm not going to get into all that, but I think after Azazel came along, um, the fallen watchers, the sons of God, would have you reevaluated going that route. So I think that's whenever they really started, because whenever you look and see Simjaza comes to him and he says, "Look, we have to take an oath on Mount Hermon's where they took this oath. We have to take this oath because I'm scared I'm going to have to bear this sin all by myself." See, I think he had already messed up. I think because he saw the female fallen angels mating with men, and they were getting away with it somehow. They weren't getting swift judgment. Um, he decided to mate with one of them. It doesn't say that, but I think it's implied because Azazel comes along and it basically he's showing that Azazel and Samjazel were both captains, and I think that's because Azazel was his son. And then I think he saw how like evil his son was. He went to the other sons of God and was just like, "Look, I've got to go another way with starting this nation, so y'all got to do it with me, and we'll create a bloodline that can help get Azazel in check because he's training all the humans how to kill each other off, and they were having dealings with the humans, Cain's lineage, and I think that they didn't want Azazel, and he probably had a squad too by this point. He didn't. Samjaza and the Sons of God did not want him to, succeed in wiping out the humans. I mean, honestly, um, I think fallen angels hate us, but they need us also. I mean, they'll hate us at sometimes, but they need us. And Azazel, I think, was also dealing with Cain's lineage because it was interbreeding and intermarrying with the fallen ones as well, from the females. And so after this, you start to see kind of, I think, people starting to face off versus each other. Like they were starting to have competition and they were falling out with it. Like some of the sons of God and stuff were starting to fight against each other. Says one, I think it might have been Simjaza taught enchantments, but the next angel, I think his name started with it was like Armoros or something. He taught the resolving of enchantments. So that's kind of like um, cause and effect, action reaction type deal. Like you had attack retaliate type thing going on. They taught them about the constellations. It said that was the next thing. It said one of them taught something to do with like the clouds, and then the other one taught the constellations because like the clouds can cover up the constellations. I don't know if that's necessarily at all what the point is saying, but like I'm seeing behind, like I look behind the actions and like you can almost kind of see underlying themes. There was definitely conflict going on, and it was definitely surrounding like breeding and women and competition for land and stuff like that. So um, I originally started this video talking about the Gadites, and so I basically said what I wanted to say there. But they were. I think if you catch my video, it says the four archangels and their appearances. That's what I talk about in that video. The angels are literally anamorphic a lot of times. The angel Michael looks like a lion. That's what these guys look like. Lion-looking humanoids was a thing that I think was often seen. Um, and it's interesting too that if you have animal like male angels, there were probably animal like female angels. That would make sense. And I can't help but notice that the Lyrans is like a galactic federation deal, like one of the races of aliens that look like, they're part cat, lion or whatever. Excuse me, I'm trying to hiccup, but you know, that word Lyre, lyre, that was an instrument, and I think one of the twin sons that was Jabal and Jubal. They were the first sons of one of the first fallen angel wives, I believe. They married Lamech, and they were the second one, Jubal, who I think ends up evolving into Hubal. who is that was Hubal to the Moabites, who was Baal to many other cultures, and that initially became Allah. So I think he was in some way humanoid, like he had a lion or cat-like appearance because of his angelic descent, and he also invented music. Um, he was the father of those that played the lyre and the harp, is what it says in Genesis. While his brother invented like the domestication of animals. These secrets were traded by these guys, I believe, for human women. Uh, Tubal Cain and his sister, Tubal, Tubal. It's just like Hubal or Jubal. Tubal Cain of the descendancy of Cain. Are you seeing the connections here? He had a sister named Naamah, Naamah. She was traded, I believe, for metal making techniques and the art of, the knowledge of battle and war. She was traded to Azazel, I believe, that he was taught Tubal Cain, who was the first human to work metals and create weapons. So back to the Lyrians. I think that's why they're called the Lyrians, because of they were the first ones to really like make musical instruments, and they probably got that knowledge from who? Angels, of course, because angels sing for joy, and they were singing at the foundation of the earth, as Job says. So, the other four archangels, you had Michael, Raphael, Uriel, and wow, why does it elude me? Gabriel. Um, Gabriel looked like an ox, or no, Gabriel looked like a human. Raphael looked like an ox, and Uriel looks like an eagle. And that is what Enoch says. But you can also see in Revelation that Enoch says their names, but Revelation says with their appearance. They're the four archangels that stand around the throne of God. And you have to put both those texts together to get that. But that's what I did. And I'm getting a lot of cool stuff. So anyway, that's all I got to say. That was the Gadites. Oh, I'm still going.